What is going on, Lucid fans? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk about why right now, despite everything and after earnings, is an amazing time to buy in. I'm going to go over some telltale signs, especially as well, that came from the earnings that did, again, signal to a very good buying opportunity. At the end, I'll do a little bit more technical analysis. In addition to, I will go over some updated data points. But before I get into any of that, you guys know the deal. Smash a thumbs up. Definitely helps my channel significantly. For those that are new to the channel, I do daily videos on trading stocks, crypto, I do it all. So make sure you do subscribe. Also pop over and take a look at my Discord, link in the description below. It's a free chat, a lot of good people, and with all that said, let's get right to it. So looking at the intraday chart, it's been all over the place. You can see a little bit of a sell-off with the broader market starting to bounce back as of right now. Major indexes at the top you can see are very much green, so that is key. And one thing I want to draw your attention to is oil. The price of oil is $112.03, up roughly about 8% just today alone. So just keep that in mind because I'm going to tie that together later on. So looking as well on the live ticker to my left, currently down 1.72%, 21 million as far as volume, whereas the average is 54. Block volume, so 1.1 million shares being purchased by institutions and hedge funds today. So again, there is still a lot of institutions finding a lot of value when it comes down to Lucid, especially more so at these prices. So a couple things as well. Like I said, their earnings did come out. I'm sure you guys are well aware of that. And there was some good things, some bad things, whatever it might be. At this stage, we have a fresh start. Now we know all this information and we can make a sound decision going forward. But there is some things that I do find very interesting that did come from that, which is 25,000 as far as reservations, up from 17,000. So it definitely shows a lot of demand for Lucid vehicles. And again, I know there's a lot of individuals that they're saying and already thinking, well, if they can't produce vehicles, they'll never actually get to that 25,000. Arguably, I disagree with that because technically, again, tying back into this is oil prices. And I know the WTI technically is not equivalent to the gasoline prices, but it does show and factor into the supply and demand. But ultimately, it does increase gas prices, not again as much as 8% and give or take. But again, it goes back to the point, even showing this as well. So this is based on Ross Gerber. He did tweet out the average American will save $5,000 a year owning a EV. And obviously, he's orienting more towards Tesla. But obviously, when it comes down to Lucid, we have a longer range, so even more benefit for us as Lucid investors. So this is why, going back to that 25,000, there is a very strong demand for Lucid vehicles. And again, it comes down to the fact that they did reduce their actual 2022 delivery guidance from 20,000 to roughly about 12 to 14,000. And this is one, in my opinion, one scenario that they are doing more so kind of cutting guidance, but they're going to outperform. So it's better to actually outperform than not. So this is, I think, the scenario that's going to happen. But regardless of all that, this is one very good reason why you need to buy, because there's a lot of demand. And second point that I do really like about this 25,000 as far as the reservations, Peter did say during the conference call that majority of that is actually from the States. So looking at this, I know you guys are probably again sick of this, but it does show a good representation. And right now, looking at Europe and China, which I'm very excited about the growth, that's also another reason why you need to buy in. Not necessarily highlighted as much as I would have liked in the conference call, but regardless, it's still hitting a lot of good points. But the US has been lagging for quite some time as far as EV sales and things like that. But looking at this, so technically this 25,000, majority of which is coming from the States. So I do really like that, especially what Peter did say, shows that hopefully demand in the US will pick up, especially more so over the coming years, and compete with as far as the European demand. And one thing that the European market does have right now is very expensive oil. So again, tying back into this, there's a lot of savings that could come from that, incentivizing a lot of people to jump over into EVs. And hopefully, given the circumstances and increasing gas prices, it's just going to cause more and more people just to jump over and commit into an EV vehicle. Especially not only that, when they do have the infrastructure bill. So in case you don't know what the infrastructure bill, I highly suggest you take a look at it. Ultimately, it does give up to $12,500 in rebates and cash credits and so forth. So you get $7,500 for the basic credit, $500 for vehicles as far as if the batteries are made in the US, and then 45 additional ones for benefits for the vehicles built in US factories with a union labor. Unfortunately, Lucid nor does Tesla qualify for that 4,500. This is a very strong positive, and this out there, the infrastructure bill will always support EV vehicles. So that will hopefully over the next couple of years cause a lot more demand in the US, and again, picking that up. So this is why right now is a good time to buy in, because there is is more and more demand picking up when it comes to EV vehicles. And I'm sure you can tell this is from 2020. There is no up-to-date 2021 regional charts, unfortunately. It does have these kind of charts, but when it comes down to this, it's not broken up by region, which I really do like that. But still, you do see a overall demand growing more and more with EV vehicles. And this chart does represent the number of new plug-in vehicle registrations by month. So it's very positive. I really do like EVs in general, and it's just getting more and more demand. Again, cycling back to the price of oil, it's just continuously increasing. And this was well before even the Russia situation started to even develop. So I do strongly feel that this is a great time to buy in. And not only that, tying back into this 25,000 as far as customer reservations, it is very beneficial and does prove that the huge amount of studios popping up throughout the States and Canada is actually working. It's increasing demand, and I really do like that. And more so, it is set for Europe. So once Europe does develop more and more and gets into that whole developing as far as studios and popping up, and then once we start deliveries on a constant basis to Europe and things like that, I'm very excited. And especially, again, going back to this chart, Europe and China have huge amount of demand. So once we do develop ourselves in that market, that is going to mean a lot of money for us as investors, more and more reservations, more production, everything. So this is why right now is a very good time to buy in. Keep in mind, a lot of this is for a long-term time horizon. That's where you'll make the most money, because for instance, the US demand is not going to keep up to par with Europe overnight. That's not realistic, and that's not what's going to happen. It will happen gradually, more so over the next couple of years. So this is why right now getting in at the ground floor is the best time to buy in, especially considering we just had our first earnings and they actually did deliver some vehicles. I know it's not as many as some people were expecting, but regardless of all that, is still very exciting. And so just moving on and keeping in line with what was said actually during the earnings call and reasons why you need to buy in because of that, there is this. So we all know Saudi Arabia, they were talking about technically in the second half of 2022, they are going to be starting to break ground. And recently it did just come out that they signed a 25-year lease agreement up until 2047. So this is very exciting. And a lot of us really do like Lucid's growth. And factoring in Lucid's price right now, this is why technically a lot of bears came out of the woodwork, and I just had to reload, unfortunately, my live ticker to my left, so that's kind of why I went black for a little bit. But again, goes back to the point, there's a lot of bears that were coming out hypothetically saying that we're overvalued, blah blah blah. Factoring in when we did open technically after earnings, which is a very realistic price at $24.48, that is factoring in all the relevant information that we do have. And keep in mind, the market always does technically value growth, future growth more specifically, and tech, both of which that Lucid does have. So when bears are coming out saying that it's not worth that, it's worth $8, $12, whatever it is, that is not realistic. And technically the same goes for Tesla. I know a lot of people have high expectations for Tesla, but when they're going to be cutting future guidance and cutting their growth, that is going to significantly damage the stock. It happens all throughout the market. So when there's a lot of bears coming out, just try not to pay too much attention, because Lucid is a very long-term investment, and it's those investors that are very patient that are going to make the most. And I say that all the time, but keep in mind, I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own due diligence at the end of the day. So I have touched on a lot of different reasons why you need to buy in. I'm just going to go over some updated data points as of right now, starting with short interest, because short interest has been all over the place when it comes down to Lucid. Right now, 1746, down roughly about 7% from 1 week prior. Utilization is still 100%. Cost to borrow average is starting to go up, so getting a little bit more costly for shorts to maintain their position. So 21.46%. Day by day change, pretty stagnant, but it is actually up 0.39%, which works out to be 880,000 shares being additionally shorted. And looking at options activity, so right now, technically, there's been $10.35 million worth of options being done today with 60% positive, whereas yesterday was 69% with $10.84 million worth of options being done. So I really do like the options activity. It shows that there's a lot of optimism when it comes down to Lucid, and I really do like that, because there was a lot of positive things that were said from the earnings that did give a lot of investors hope. And again, it's a little bit more of a long-term investment, and that's kind of the picture that I got from that, especially with a lot of supply chain issues. One positive thing, I keep saying this, that came from the earnings is I was very surprised that it was not semiconductor related as far as the supply chain issues. It's just basic carpet and glass, so things that could be easily ordered. So it's one of those things, again, it's not with the broader market of tech being a semiconductor semiconductor issues. So that's one of many positive things to take from the earnings. But with that, I'm just going to tie it all together with some technical analysis. So right now, technically, I have the 50, 100, 200-day moving averages, Bollinger Bands, RSI, stochastic, and momentum. So despite everything, some buyers are definitely leaving Lucid. You can tell that based on the momentum indicator. Stochastic right now, there still technically is a little bit of a deviation. So black line above the red showing a bullish sentiment, and RSI is currently at 39. Looking on the actual chart, we are at the lower percentile of the Bollinger Band, pretty stagnant today. We've kind of been range bound, but technically it's just one of those things we're trying to find our new floor. I personally do think that it is in at around $23.50, give or take. That's where we've tested over the last couple of days, so I do strongly feel that is the bottom. Keep in mind the S2 is around $21, so that is a very pivotal point. If we get close to that, I do anticipate us having a lot of selling pressure. So that's more so what's happening on the technical stance as far as things to watch for. But overall, given all the circumstances, I'm very excited. I did personally buy in today at $24.10. So I've been adding my position. I really do like that, and I really like Lucid. And there was, like I said, a lot of positives, some negatives coming from the earnings, but it is what it is. It is a startup company, give or take. Obviously, they're a little bit more developed, but still a lot of positive things to take from that. With all that said, let me know your thoughts on Lucid in the comments below. If you haven't already, smash a thumbs up, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Greatly appreciate that. If you do like my channel and want to support the growth, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With all that said, appreciate you guys watching, and let's all make a lot of money on Lucid.